I'm going to read from Henry David Thoreau's Walden. First chapter. The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What is called resignation is confirmed desperation. From the desperate city, you go into the desperate country and have to console yourself with the bravery of minks and muskrats. This is the death that Paul talks about in Romans 8 when he says that the mind set on the flesh is death. And this is why drugs of all kinds have such an incredible interest for us in our day. Of all kinds. Because if your mind is set on the flesh, well, good luck. You're going to need it. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I am Michael Stewart Robb here on this wintry Munich morning. Not sure where you live, not sure what the weather's like, but we've had a lot of snow here in Munich. And it is getting towards Christmas, and that's a good reason for me to remind you all that what we do here on the Sanctus Forum is a non-profit enterprise. We depend on donors, and just a nudge to all of you to give if you can. And for those who give at least $25 this year, we'd be glad to send a copy of Something to Say, a bibliography of Dallas Willard, explains where you can find all of Dallas Willard's stuff. But do read the instructions there on sanctus.institute/friends. We can't ship to everywhere, but maybe if you write to us, we might be able to do that. Since I have it here, I may as well also note that I did write a book on Dallas Willard called The Kingdom Among Us. It's a big book and might be something that you want for Christmas. I'm not ashamed to talk about this book, not only because it is really good, but I don't make a ton of money on this. I mean, I barely make anything at all if you buy a copy of that book. So it's good for you. It doesn't really help me all that much. We do conspiracy commentaries here. We talk about Dallas Willard's The Divine Conspiracy, just one little section at a time. And here, Christmas time, we are coming up for breadth. We have been deep in some philosophy and theology, and Dallas is, I guess, restoring us to reality, to the lives that we lead every day. Though not perhaps a very flattering image of our lives. We're in a section called the Human Quandary. And reading this section, I was impressed with the idea of how he deals with things existentially. I was listening to a different series on apologetics, and he talked about how apologetics isn't about just sort of throwing the proofs and evidences of Christianity at people, but it's about dealing with the existential questions and quandaries that people have in life. And I think this is a really interesting way in which Dallas approached almost anything that he wrote. Almost anything that he wrote or even spoke about dealt with the real life issues that people were struggling with. And I mean, I know sometimes it seems like it's pretty high level stuff, and he is doing a pretty cosmic global analysis of things, but you'd have to notice how he really is trying to root teachings of God in things that we are actually dealing with today. And that's the section here. That's what I see. I'll just give a summary in case you're unfamiliar with it. He starts out talking about Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau, and then he moves on to talk about Aldous Huxley, and then he finally finishes up with Leo Tolstoy. That's the section, and he's just kind of quoting or summarizing what they think and how they're looking at human life. Now, the Huxley thing is very interesting. He's dealing with this book called, what is it exactly called? The Doors of Perception. Now, I haven't read it. I admit that I did just look it up a little bit and see what it is. I have read his Brave New World, which I think is very good and very topical for us today. But Huxley is apparently had some experience with psychedelic drugs, experiences with experiences. Yeah. So he used drugs and then he wrote about it. And what he says is that humanity is such that we need drugs. And we need them because we need an escape from reality. Reality is too difficult for us to deal with, and therefore we need to find a kind of perfect drug that will sort of set us free, at least momentarily, from the kind of, what does Thoreau say, the lives of quiet desperation that we live all the time. Now, Dallas Willard actually had some experience with drugs, not taking them himself as far as I know, but experience with people that he was close to who were using drugs, and therefore it's very interesting when he starts to philosophize or do ethics about drugs and why they are what they are in our society. And I think that it goes way beyond using what we call, illegal substances or anything you might be addicted to. I think drugs can come in all sorts of forms, and they do all take that character of giving us some sort of escape from realisms, escape from reality, and sort of pull us into something else. And there was this one talk I was listening to, actually a class at USC, and they were talking about William James. And William James, in his day, had to deal with a lot of drunkenness. And William James, sort of in his characteristic way, this is secondhand from Dallas Willard, talks about why we are so interested as human beings in drunkenness. And James says that it has to do with the fact that we are made for something transcendent. We are made to go beyond ourselves, to get beyond ourselves, the transcendent. And that's just sort of in us. And when we can't find it otherwise, we turn to things like drunkenness, or maybe roller coasters, or romantic thrills of some sort, or drugs in the classical sense, in order to sort of achieve that transcendence. And that is, and Dallas is saying, the mind that is the mind of the flesh. Now, this section sort of follows from the last section, and there was so much in the last section, the one on the substantiality of the spiritual, that I barely got any of it said, and it just pays rereading. But I want to call your attention to the second to last paragraph of that section, where he talks about Romans 8:6. Now, what you see here in these final two sections is two bits on that. Right now, here, the human quandary, you could write above that, the mind of the flesh. And then, for the next section, you'll see Dallas has titled it, A Solution in the Mind of the Spirit. So all these people, Thoreau, Huxley, Tolstoy, were living the mind of the flesh. And the reason why is that's just what they were assigned to. That's just kind of what happened to them since they weren't living the mind of the Spirit. Now we're going to have to talk about that one next time. But the answer to why we need drugs, according to Dallas Willard, is we don't have a life embedded in the spiritual. That's, says Dallas, what we were made for, and therefore why despair and desperation seems to be what we are consigned to. And that's why Dallas says here that I take this to be a considerable point in its favor, that is, in the favor of the spiritual being real and what we were really made for. Well, thank you for being here. And I will say, one of the things that really helps us on these videos, I mean, you can subscribe, and that's obviously great. And if you're here, you may as well do that and like it and all that. But writing comments on things actually tells YouTube people care here, and then they pass it on to other people because they think they will care too. So, you know, writing comments, just simplest things, going back to old videos and writing comments on those, just helps yeah, Google, YouTube know that here's something important and gets it out to other people. So other than giving, that's a really small thing that you can do. But until next time, see you. Bye.